Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the PvP podcast, the show where we talk about business, real estate, and everything in between. Today I have Brett Gallant on the show with me, and he is the founder of Adaptive Office Solutions, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his personal experience, both in the business world and making some big personal changes, and a little bit about the mindset behind that. Before we get into this episode, I would like to announce that this episode is sponsored by Mercurio Inspections, who is a trustworthy home inspector committed to providing reliable service to anyone in the Montreal or surrounding area. Now, let's jump into it. Brett, thank you for sitting down and, accepting the invitation to come and have a chat with me.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really grateful to be able to speak to you and your audience.
Yeah, amazing. And I wanted to have you on the show. We were chatting a little bit before, and I wanted to have you on because I saw something that I related to, in your bio. And I know that it takes a lot, to do that type of change in your personal life. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about the company that you founded and where that came from and the thought process behind it.
So name of the company is Adaptive Office Solutions, which started in April of 2010. We help small, medium businesses, as well as municipalities, indigenous and pharmacies, among a few other verticals, manage their cyber risk, but also help them manage the complexities and day-to-day support of their IT needs.
Mhm.
What's really interesting about this story, and I think so much about my story, my life it is an entrepreneur story, but it's also a story of mindset and setting some goals.
Yeah.
I've worked for a great company before, and I love telling this small bit of the story because it excites me when I tell it, and I see people's eyes light up. In 2007, I was doing some work for a client when I was working for another organization, and I had the great pleasure to participate in a Brian Tracy webinar. And he said, take 3 minutes right in the middle of this webinar and write down 10 of your goals. I wrote down my goals. A couple of years ago, I was on stage in Phoenix. Before I went to that event, I found this book where I wrote down the goals.
Mm-hmm.
Goal number 4 was by April 1st, 2010, I will own my own successful IT company.
Amazing.
Love it,
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I think goals are important. I speak to so many people, and I was speaking to a young lady last week who is a member of the community, that an investors community that I'm a member of here in Canada. And we had talked, and the first thing I asked her, like, what are your goals? You need to have some sort of goals, and you need to write them. It's good to have them in your head, but it's even better to write them down,
Yes.
and I followed up with this young lady, and she had bought my book that I had published, and she had bought it maybe about 5 months ago. And she says, well, she goes, I didn't even finish reading your book, so maybe I'll set a goal for now to finish your book. And I said, well, here's one thing that I do every year. I make a personal goal, I make a professional goal, and I make an educational goal. Right. And these 3 types of goals are really what I base my following year on: personal, professional, and educational. Right. So I always try to make a personal development, professional development, and an educational development in my life. So I think writing goals down is something that a lot of people underestimate rather.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's so much power in those goals. It activates something. I look at my goals 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're always revising them and adjusting them.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the business, the IT business. What type of clients do you service? What's your target, clientele or profile?
So because we're in eastern part of Canada, a small, beautiful city, Miramichi, locally we have a number of different verticals, municipalities. We have some seafood plants, lawyers, pharmacies. And then on top of that, we do serve across Canada, we have some indigenous clients and some municipalities in the north. And they're all struggling with the same thing: how to make IT easier.
Yeah.
Which is a complex thing just when you think about it. You know, when
Yeah.
we think about our technology, I think most people just get nauseous thinking about it, but we help them with that. But the biggest thing, what we did, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, is we pivoted hard and we recognized that we could no longer pretend that there was not an issue going on out in the greater world around us. Cybersecurity attacks are way up. We
Yeah.
can't keep our heads stuck in the ground like an ostrich anymore and thinking that it will no longer happen to us.
Yeah.
Because sadly, I've seen what happens when an organization loses $200,000 and their whole network is encrypted.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's still many of us that think it'll never happen to us.
Yeah.
And their
Yeah.
story changes after, sadly, when something devastating happens to their organization. So I'd rather tell people what they need to know than
Yeah.
what they want to hear.
Right. Right. And I think that, number one, IT is something that you either understand it or you don't. You know what I mean? And for those who understand it very well. And for those that don't understand it, don't even want to bother to understand it because it's so complex. And I think that, hacks happen, right? Most
Yep.
recently, within the last 5 or 6 years, the credit bureau got hacked here in Canada, right?
Yep.
Equifax. Um,
Yeah.
Millions and millions, and I was one of them, millions and millions of people's information were potentially compromised in the hack. And as a result, I remember Equifax was giving me free access to my credit bureau monitoring for 2 years.
Which is great. But what happens after the 2 years are up? Sometimes
Exactly.
they sit on that info.
Yeah. I mean, it's that type of information I would imagine is timeless, right? You know what I mean? You
Yes.
don't necessarily need to use it now. You could use it in 2, 3, 5 years.
Yep.
But I'm just thinking, like, can you imagine, like, obviously, if entity like Equifax could have their information compromised or hacked? Imagine a car dealership or a pharmacy or a smaller entity, right? So I think
Well,
that,
I have a story about that that really hits close to home. You said the pharmacy. I had the pleasure of doing a presentation on cybersecurity for a pharmacy organization, help them with some CPE credits. I had a phone call about a month later. Well, yeah, a month later, a pharmacy owner contacted me and said, I never thought it would happen to me. 2 weeks after I had the conversation, their whole pharmacy was shut down because they had a ransomware event. And they were going through so much stress working with just one computer. There was so many other things that people don't really realize that happens. You got to get forensics in, legal, and you're basically crippled not being able to do anything operationally to get back up to date. That's even if you're lucky if you had a tested, verified backup. This
yeah,
is real.
yeah. No, and it definitely is. It definitely is real, and I think that's why people in IT do so well because they specialize in it and they understand it. You know what I mean? It's very, very complex. Like my technology skills go as far as browsing online for real estate deals and my emails and stuff like that. Whereas, like, I think about my younger cousin, he's able to build me an entire PC by ordering parts and individual parts and
Yeah.
put it all together. And I'm like, for me, that's like learning, rocket science, right? So I think that, now, how long have you been doing this?
I was in a community college course in 1995. I took a course called International Software Marketing and Publishing, and it was right after that that I took a leap of faith and I started into a job with corporate IT for a construction fabrication company, which was the foundation for my IT career and just the way I operate. They had some really good values.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I worked with that company for 16 years, so 16 years there. And now we're coming up on, well, in April, it'll be 16 years with Adaptive Office Solutions, taking that leap of faith and leaving a great organization and starting an organization like Adaptive Office Solutions, which I'm very proud to be able to say that we've been doing this for almost 16 years now.
So, like, what would be some of the challenges that you would face in your day-to-day, either in your own personal business or for a client, let's say?
Well, challenges sometimes, at least earlier on when I was transitioning the business to being security first, it was a challenge of education and awareness of why we needed to change, because things have changed and cyber attacks are way up. So it was that, but I don't always lead with cyber anymore. It's really good IT so that the business owner can buy back their time.
Right.
Sometimes the challenges are with some organizations, they don't see IT. They see IT as a cost and technology. They don't see it as a way that they can buy back their time and use it as put the fuel and the dollars into it of what it rightfully needs to help grow their business. Right. So those have been some of the challenges. Not as bad as before, because I've been become really great at helping business owners understand and giving them a high level cyber health check, which sometimes leads to a cybersecurity risk assessment.
Right.
And I don't even want to and what we've been starting to do now is an AI readiness assessment.
Right.
Because the AI is a reality, and the important thing is to recognize, okay, how can I harness AI effectively to use it as a thought leader? But most importantly, what kind of guardrails have we put in, and have we enabled our team to use AI with the most effective power that it can?
Yeah. Which in part somewhat answers my next question, was, seeing as how you've been doing this for so long, what were some of the evolutions in your business? And I imagine AI is definitely part of them. If I think about IT in 1995 versus IT in 2025, the date of this episode filming, there must have been a number of advancements, evolutions, tools, things that you've seen come across your business, AI being one.
Yes. Well, there's so many ways to answer that question. But in honor of your audience, one of the things I've learned in my business and my personal is the biggest yes is what you say no to. So I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
And this business, which I'm really proud of, was built on being the IT company for everyone. Residential. We even had subcontracts to do debit card replacements, point of sale replacements. We were fixing people's Facebook and Hotmails. We had to change. I had to start saying no to doing the subcontract work. I did one job for the subcontract where I was at a gas station. I went at the gas station at 4 p.m. to do a point of sale upgrade, and I left at noon the next day.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
And first of all, number one, it wasn't paying really that great. It was through a subcontract. And second, I was doing it. It should have been a team member. And third, it should never have gone on that long. I say no to those things now.
Yeah.
Because
I can relate with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a few things that you said in the last couple minutes that I could relate to. Number one being I like the fact that you use the term recovering people pleaser, because I think that often people pleasing happens subconsciously. We don't know we're people pleasing. And I think that when we finally catch on to it, we realize, and hindsight's always 20/20, we realize all the road we've had behind us of people pleasing. And then you had mentioned, the subcontracting and it not paying well, and it, dragging on longer than it should have. Well, it brings me back to a time in my early career when I started off in real estate, and I started doing property management projects. Clients, I would set a rate and the client would say, yeah, but that's not in my budget. This is more in my budget. And I would, in hindsight now, I think about it completely different. But back then, 8 years ago, I would be like, okay, well, if I work on his budget for the first year, then it'll lead to what I want in the second year and then the third year. But guess what happens? Or at least what happened to me? It didn't last longer than that first year.
No.
And then the minute we, restructured to represent what I originally wanted, the client canceled their contract or said, sorry, I'm going to manage my building myself. And I didn't at the time realize it was people pleasing. you know, and then now I realize, and that's why I connected so well when you said recovering people pleaser and then your story, because I've been there firsthand. I could tell you that in my case, it was a lot to do with the eagerness of earning experience and, you know, building the portfolio
and getting the reps in. Yeah.
And getting the reps in. Yeah. And thinking, you know, I'd rather lose, you know, $1,000 than, you know, the full $2,000, right? Which is not always the good frame of mind, you know? And then things like, for example, your experience happen, right? Now you learn to say no. So what does say no actually do? We think at the beginning, saying no to a client or a job is going to hinder us and our advancement and our growth. But really, it just saves us a load of stress, because I could tell you in my personal experience, 9 out of 10 times that I said yes when I really wanted to say no, it bit me in the foot.
Yeah, well, because when you're saying yes, a lot of times you're saying no to other possibilities because you don't have the capacity to be focused on what you should be doing. And every time I said no, when I said no more, when I made these decisions, I call them decision days. And I've had a number of them over the years. Especially I can think of one transition with the client. It was hard for me. I had an emotional attachment to it. But when I decided we could no longer serve them in that capacity, another opportunity came up because I had the capacity to be able to be there, to be present, to deliver, and to understand it was an opportunity.
Right. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more, because we prevent the good when we're, you know, from coming in, because I could tell you in my experience, almost every file that I should have said no to, that I said yes to out of fear of not advancing the portfolio, or not only were they the short-lived clients that didn't renew for the second, third, fourth year, but they were also the most demanding.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and that's where and at the end, I found myself angry at myself, because it is my fault at the end, right? Being a people pleaser, and they were the most demanding. Whereas the clients who accept my rates are the least demanding, right?
Yeah.
So I really hooked on to what you said there, because I could really relate.
Yeah.
I want to,
and it's okay to say no, because it's a complete sentence and it ends with a period, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that comes along to the changes that we make in our life, and deciding to make those changes. I think sometimes the decision of making a change is more dreadful than the actual change itself.
Yes.
You know, change is good. It takes us a long time to decide, you know, and I heard Tony Robbins say this once, you know, it's not the change that takes forever. It's making the decision to change that takes forever.
Yeah. And when you make a decision yourself by committing and following through with that decision.
Exactly. I want to talk more about that. But before we do, we're going to have to take a short break from a quick word from our sponsor.
Inspections. Mercurio is a trusted and experienced inspection firm known for their thorough, professional approach and attention to detail. They specialize in providing clear, easy-to-understand reports that help buyers, sellers, and investors truly understand the condition of a property before making important decisions. Their commitment to transparency, accuracy, and reliability makes them a valuable partner in any real estate transaction. Our trusted partner since 2018.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the PvP podcast. So I'm sitting down with Brett today, and we dove into his IT experience and a little bit about the personal side of things. And I mean, I want to dive right back into it with, you know, before the break, we were talking about change and the decision to make change. Reading your profile, you know, before, you know, booking this episode, you made a big change in your life.
Yeah.
And I know from experience that it's a difficult change. So, I mean, for the listeners, can you tell us what that big change was?
Well, as of today's date, I have released 140 pounds. A lot of people say loss, but I say release, because when you lose something, you find it. And I'm releasing it forever, and they're not coming back.
Amazing. I like that. I like that. Release and lose. I like that analogy. And it's so true. It is so true. Now, 140 pounds, that's tremendous. That takes a lot of work.
I've rebuilt a new identity.
I could imagine. And
Yeah.
I have been through a similar change, not 140, I know 97, which was tough, right?
Way to go.
Thank you,
Yeah.
man. That's why, I related to your profile, and I caught on to it right away, because when I was at my heaviest, I didn't feel it. Like, I knew it subconsciously, but I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
But then there was I guess, what you call decision day, where I realized it, and I decided to, hey, I don't want to feel like this no more, and I don't want to look like this no more, and it took me some time, but my number was 97. The scale, melted off. I know that it wasn't an easy linear path, but, talk to us a little bit about that experience. What led to that decision? Like, what were you going through, in your mindset during that time?
So I'm the guy that has been on this journey for some time. I tried and I tried. It came down to one day where this is actually sticking now. Before I had my decision day, my moment with my coach, which I'm going to get to in a moment, I had dropped $3,000 on a fitness coaching program. It was a great coaching program, but I wasn't ready, and I hadn't developed the mindset on fully embracing the decision and building what I believe too, and I have this in so many different ways in my life, is accountability partners.
Right.
I built accountability with my mastermind I was in. I built accountability with sharing my journey with my coach. I added a line for my check-ins, my personal journey. But my moment came in October when I said to my coach, I said, Dave, I don't have time. I don't have time to go to the gym. And questions are very powerful, because he flipped that around and he said this to me. He said, Brett, you mean to tell me you own your own business and you can't even get to the gym?
Yeah.
That hit me. And that was truth. So I had to look at myself and said, okay, I had a time prioritization problem.
Yeah.
So I built the discipline to start realizing the biggest thing I can do is treat myself like my own best client.
Right.
So now my routine is I'll get up and go to the gym at 5 a.m. And after the children get on the bus, I'll go for a 20-minute walk and get another hike in later in the day.
Yeah.
But I like to say to people, like, if we don't have time, let's really stop and look at ourselves, because I look back and I think of that old version of me this is me talking to him. Brett, you have time. You can do 2 20-minute walks a day. If we really stop and look at it, we can do 2 20-minute walks a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
At the minimum too. At the minimum.
Right. And you mentioned Tony Robbins. I've really started to embrace this in the last few months. I love getting out hiking.
Right.
So what I do now, sometimes I get my hikes in and I do my one-on-ones while I'm hiking.
Right.
Or listen, and Tony talks about that net time.
Yeah.
So
couple things I want to add here, because I used to say I don't have time to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And although lately, I will be honest, most recently in the last 2 years, I've gotten into martial arts and jujitsu, and I got super addicted to it. Okay. And I started going to 2, sometimes 3 classes a day when I would go. And, in the last maybe 6 months, I've been going to like 3, maybe 4 classes a week. But I used to say I never had time to exercise or this, that. But then I realized that these are excuses that we make. And, and I realized oftentimes the most dreadful task is the one that I procrastinate. So
yes.
If I don't want to make this phone call, I'm going to procrastinate to make it later on in the day. But then when later on in the day comes, I won't do it because I found every reason not to do it during that day.
Because we were letting fear be in the driver's seat. And
we're not taking control.
Had that. And I also had this big aha realization where some of the places that even in my professional journey I was encouraged to read the book, The Big Leap, The Upper Limit.
Right.
And if you're familiar with the book, The Upper Limit keeps us in our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Which is where 95% of people are.
Yeah, and we've been given this gift of life, and we have so much potential that we just have to, like, I love the Shrek analogy, like the ogres have layers. Just peel back another layer of yourself and find out who you are and the potential you have inside you. We're capable of so many things that we hold back for
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
Fear.
Fear. And, and Tony Robbins even says, if you change one word in the question you ask yourself, you change the entire question, which changes the entire answer.
Yes.
So instead of asking yourself, why can't I go to the gym every day? How can I go to the gym every day? And then people and then, it just became amazing how all of a sudden I went from not having time to going to the gym to making time for everything else around my gym schedule, to the point where my fiance was like, hey, we have this with my family on Sunday. And I said, as long as it doesn't interfere, as long as it's outside of 12 and 1:30 when I'm working out on Sundays, that's it, right? And
That's called a non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
another
have some
question.
Non-negotiables.
Another thing you had said about, taking your walks and doing your one-on-ones and listening to a podcast. I read most recently one of the books that I read this year, because early on in the episode, I mentioned about making personal goals, professional goals, and educational goals. And one of my personal goals last year was to read 10 books. And one of the books that I read out of the 10 this year was The Atomic Habits.
Incredible book. Yeah.
Great book. And in that book, they talk about habit stacking.
Yes.
So habit stacking could be, exercising, but while you're on the treadmill, listening to your podcast, getting your podcasts in, and stacking habits, or driving to the office, instead of listening to music, listen to an audiobook, right?
Yep.
And I love that habit stacking. And when I read the book, I said, I was able to put all the places of where I started not unintentionally, but unknowingly habit stacking, right? So I think that, like, when you mentioned walking and doing your one-on-ones, to me, I thought of habit stacking, because even to this day, I say, okay, I got to make, let's say, 2 phone calls. Well, the best time for me to make them is when I'm driving and I'm stuck in Montreal traffic for an hour anyways.
Right. And for me, like, I can do some sales calls or customer follow-ups while I'm hiking in nature.
Yeah.
Or just do a reach out, or I sent a text to a former client just to touch base. I believe in relationships. They matter. I sent them a message, and we have this private joke. Sent him the text, and a moment later he called me, and I'm in the middle of the forest laughing my head off, having a great conversation.
Yeah.
But also led to a possible opportunity for us to work together. He said, you really should come in and check in with us. I think it's not working out with the other person.
Exactly. And I think that, sometimes these little phone, like for example, I've done some of that too, oftentimes we get the Facebook notifications, so-and-so's birthday, and everyone posts a generic message on the wall. But what I'll do is I'll pick up the phone and text the person, hey, Brett, happy birthday. And they'll call me because they haven't heard from me in a couple months, and they didn't expect me to personally text them. And then that led to some sort of work related or business or transactional.
But the biggest thing though, you brighten their day. You were a little different.
Yeah. And you're adding personalized touch to it too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Personalized touch, because sometimes I get these like email chains and they're not really that person. Like, you can always tell when you get a text message that's automated, when you get an email that's automated, or it's personalized. You could always tell. So 140 pounds.
Yes.
Your mindset must have, like, you had to essentially, what I like to call, reinvent yourself.
Yeah. Well, even discipline is a decision. And the hardest part, it was not only about the discipline to get to the gym and prioritize myself. It was also changing my relationship with food. Food is fuel. And the discipline not to put the hand in the chocolate chips or the peanut butter, my downfall. And I'll be honest, I still have those struggles.
Yeah, for sure. I still do too. I still crave my sodas. But I learned to, someone once told me that it's your relationship, and he said, don't deprive yourself of that, right? Like, now, instead of drinking 2 cans of regular soda, I'll drink a Pepsi Mini, right? So
Yeah,
it's just like
moderation. Yeah.
moderation.
y- Yeah.
Moderation, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, I made small changes. So I replaced my, when I released my weight, I replaced my, sodas with club soda, stop eating pasta as frequently. So I think it's about, changing the relationship with food is definitely.
Yeah. Small adjustments. For example, coffee, I drink it black a lot of times. Sometimes I'll put
Yeah.
milk, a little splash of milk in it, but eliminating the sugar, going to the store and purchasing a coffee with a cookie, replacing it with a protein shake, or
Yeah.
getting the Reese's Pieces at the convenience store. No,
Yeah.
you can have that the odd time, but we underestimate how many calories are in, and what it does to our body. Because how I feel today, I feel incredible.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember, like, this time of year right now, I would get really bad chronic bronchitis 2 or 3 times a year. I don't remember the last time I've had it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have
I
more
used to get
energy. I'm
chronic
not falling
bronchitis too.
asleep on the couch anymore. I used to
Yeah.
fall asleep on the couch in front of my children.
Or midday crashes, like right after lunch or
Yeah.
things like that. And I
Or
think
not even
that,
take the kids to the park because I didn't want to be out of breath.
yeah. I used to have a hard time when I was heavier. I used to have a hard time digesting certain foods. And now, like, I eat those foods still. Obviously, not 2, 3 times a week, maybe once a month, I'll have a pizza, but I digest it way better, and I don't feel guilty eating it anymore. So let me ask you, like, how has releasing the weight improved your relationship with your business, if it has at all? Was there any like
That's easy.
correlation?
Easy. My revenue has gone up for sure. I would not have had the courage to go up on stages. I would not, like, I've spoken at a few events. I spoke in the North. I spoke in Edmonton for Pharmacy Association. I've been in the States, spoke on mindset, spoke on cybersecurity. I would not do that before because I didn't feel good about myself. I was sluggish and I didn't fit the clothes well. I would hide. I wouldn't even go to the Chamber of Commerce mixers. So it's really significantly changed how the identity of who I am and how I show up. I'm more confident. People see a big change in me. Some people who haven't seen me for a few years, I didn't recognize you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know what I used to do though? And this is where I've gotten better. Some people have said, "Hey, Brett, you inspired me." I used to deflect that.
Yeah.
Now I accept it. I say, "Thank you."
Yeah.
I'm just sharing my journey because others have inspired me.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be that lighthouse to help others in their journey. Because if I can do it, I didn't really think I could at one point.
Yeah.
I always saw these people that had these tremendous transformations and their business as a byproduct of their transformation. Like, to answer your question, it's been tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that how we feel, has a direct impact on how we perform in our personal and our business life, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, what would be the top 3 things that you would, want to offer somebody who is, looking to either release some weight or grow their own business, or maybe do a bit of the both? Like, what would be, based on your experience, the top 3 things?
Okay. Number one, as entrepreneurs, for those of you that are running a business, I used to have a business that ran me, and now I have a business that I run. So I follow this mindset of what I've adopted from scouting. I'm a scouting leader. And we had this mantra, this saying, train them, trust them, let them lead. So number one, you have to train your team, trust them, and let them lead. And on top of that, with your fitness, start with micro wins, micro habits, and stack them. Like you were saying, give yourself permission to go out for a 20-minute walk or 3 10-minute walks. Just develop that habit and getting consistency. and having that discipline, because consistency compounds. And when you start having those wins and you drink, make sure you're hydrating yourself. A lot of times we're not drinking enough water.
Yeah.
So that's a big, I believe in high protein, make sure you have your protein and you're eating good, healthy food,
Yeah.
and get help.
Mm-hmm.
And, ask for help, build some accountability,
Yeah.
share your
Accountability.
journey. Accountability is everything.
Yeah. Good. So for anyone out there listening who might want to, reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
There's so many different ways. The best way would be through Instagram and LinkedIn.
Okay.
Instagram, if you search for Brett_Gallant, you'll find me. And LinkedIn, if you search for my name, you'll find me. Cybersecurity leader, podcast host, public speaker.
Amazing.
And if you DM me 15 ways, I'll send you 15 ways, document of what you should be thinking about with your business cybersecurity, but also strike up a conversation about health. If I've inspired you, or if you want to have a little bit of advice of what I've done, I'd be happy to have a conversation. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. Brett, thanks for coming, sit down with me and having a chat today. Really appreciate you taking the time. For anyone who's watching us, whether you're watching us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, be sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And until next time, guys, this is the PvP Podcast. Perfect.